Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going on, brother?
Now then, how you doing?
I love watching your face while I make those announcements, man. When I call you the Powerful Man, I just see you light up. It's really a cool thing to see. I'm glad we're doing these on video now.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Well, Tim, it's the new year, and as you know, for a lot of people, right, we're the first week into it probably when this is being released, and people tend to set New Year's resolutions. Now, there's a new trend where people are saying, "Well, I don't set New Year's resolutions," but you and I coach a lot of people. We talk to literally 1,000, if not more, business owners a year, and we know that they're setting goals, right? They might just be goals in their business, but those fitness goals creep in, those relationship goals creep in. And something I noticed, I was at the gym this morning, and I was talking to one of the trainers there, and I was talking to her about it. And, she was saying, "Hey, look, I just don't set New Year's resolutions or what have you." I said, "Look, every year, do you have that nagging goal that you keep setting but not hitting?" And she just paused and looked at me, and she's like, yeah, I do. And we're talking about it. And I wonder if that's a lot like for a lot of the men that were listening to this podcast, right? It starts to feel like Groundhog's Day, right? Have you seen that movie with Bill Murray in it, where every morning he wakes up, it's Punxsutawney Phil or whatever, the groundhog, and it's the same thing over and over. Well, a lot of that is similar to what some of the men experience when we talk to them. I mean, these are alpha business leaders, but they experience this in the areas of the relationship, their health, their wealth, their self, etc. And what's happening is every year they're setting a goal, but for some reason they're not hitting it. 1 year becomes 2, 2 years becomes 3, 3 years becomes 4, until oftentimes it becomes dead to them, right? It's a feeling of self-worth is diminished. And just like Bill Murray in that movie, these guys start repeating the same thing. And at the beginning of the movie, if you remember, Tim, Bill Murray's character becomes really lazy, lackadaisical, gets depressed, angry, and really kind of loses himself, right? And it happens for the first week or so for him. Now, for most of the men that we end up talking to, they do this in 1 or 2 or 3 areas of their life for many years, some decades. And oftentimes it's their relationship and their health are the two that really seem to, well, actually it's really their self, right? You and I know that. They just don't realize that yet. That really seems to go to the wayside, and they become, I'll just call it a shell of a man at that point. And what that hasn't happened is the second part of Groundhog Day movie is where Bill Murray realizes, I need to make a drastic change here, and this is an opportunity for amazing growth. That's where the movie really picks up, but that's also the same for all the men that we talk to, right? They're like a character in their own movie, so to speak, yet they haven't had that real shift, that change. They haven't taken that step to really go, crap, you know what? If I'm wanting and desiring the same thing time and time again, yet not hitting it, there's only one consistent factor here, and that's me. And yet they're not doubling down on themselves. I don't know, Tim, do you have any of those New Year's resolutions that you keep trying to hit year after year, but keep creeping by the wayside?
Do you know what? I've not set any yet for 2020.
I want to see your list.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm taking quite a few days just to. I've taken quite a few days to just reflect, and I'm going to run the list past you once I've finalized it. I've done it in the past where I've just sat down in one session and got it all out, but it's always felt quite forced. So the answer to the question is no, I don't right now. In the past, definitely not. To some degree in business, although business has grown and grown year on year. Within its, how many men it's impacting and infrastructure and how it's been run and all those kind of things. So there's always growth there, which is great. But sometimes I have a habit of setting goals too high. I'm sure some people relate to that.
Yep.
I'd say one area where in the past where I've been left wanting in years gone by, And I'm really trying to find something here, Doug. I would say that's been my health. Although I can remember probably the past couple of years where I've thought, right, this year is going to be the year where I get into the best shape of my life. And obviously, I used to be a personal trainer. I used to have a fitness business. So the best shape of my life, quote unquote, is, some ridiculous Greek god Adonis kind of shape. But then as I'm just like you, brother. And then as I'm going down that rabbit hole, I realize, hang on a minute, what do I really want here? Do I just want to lose body fat, or am I in it for longevity? And, what's the reason there? So 2019, I would say, was actually the best year in my health overall ever, I'd say. I adopted fasting, something I'd never done before, and I got into a great routine with that, really enjoyed it. I learned a lot more about diet, and I was eating a lot more. I was tracking my food. First time ever I've actually stuck to tracking my food for a prolonged period of time, calories and macros. For the final 3 or 4 months of 2019, I was doing that. And I got into a good routine with resistance exercise as well, and had a stool sample taken, of course, towards the end of 2019 to see the health of my gut and whatnot. So, I'd say I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I don't have repeating goals. I feel like I'm good at actually executing upon them, and I do finish the year feeling good about what I've achieved, and also still feeling like I could have done more. But I think that's just the curse of the achiever, right? Because like I say, I can sometimes be in the habit of setting these really audacious goals that even if I don't hit them, then I've still progressed. In a big way. So, I'm torn on this question, Doug. I just said no a second ago. Now I'm feeling like I want to say there's a gap there. I'm going to say there's a gap there. I'm going to change my response. I'm going to say, yeah, there is a gap there. And I am left wanting more, not that I haven't achieved some great things.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, one of the things I've always loved about you, Tim, is you're so authentic and honest, right? So easy to get in here on a podcast or a show, and the powerful man especially, and not want to seem perfect, right? I've always had this, I always got everything covered, right? Every guy wants to seem that way. And I do applaud you for being vulnerable and being just raw and honest, man. Something you've always done so well, which allows the other men that come through the program and later on, they can always be a testament that, allows them to share their vulnerabilities, because nobody's perfect, right, guys? Like nobody here is perfect at all. What we're really talking about here is those things you complain about, those nagging goals. Every year, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to drop 10 pounds, or, 2 stone, or whatever it may be. I'm going to drop this weight this year. And you start off strong at the beginning and it dies out by February. It's the reason anywhere in the world, going into a gym or a fitness center, the second week of January to about mid-February just sucks, right? For regular people. That's actually when bodybuilders and fitness people take time off, because it gets drowned. But you go in there March and it's empty again for the rest of the year, right? It's because those goals happen, and then the person sets the same goal again beginning of the year. And so that's what I'm talking about here, is that definition of insanity, because when we do that over and over again, we also beat the crap out of ourselves for not achieving it, for setting it again. Mm-hmm. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We all know that. So how often are you, the listener, the guys watching this, how often are you doing this in your life? And I encourage you guys to be honest and write these down. Write down all the things that you keep saying you want. I want to make more money. How much you want to make, right? Write that down. I want to drive a new car. Cool. I want to lose weight. I want to gain more muscle. I want a new girlfriend, or I want to have intimacy with my partner, with my wife, or whoever, right? I want to be closer to my kids. I want to work less, travel more, start a new business. Write all of those things down if you've had them for more than 1 year. And then what I encourage you to do, there's 3 steps to this at least. I encourage you to do, once you have that list, is go down and put X2 for if you've had that for 2 years, X10 if you've had that for 10 years, right? How many times have you had this goal that you have not yet achieved? And then lastly, go through, and on the left-hand side, right now where you have that written down, write the area that it applies to, right? Does it apply to your health? Does it apply to your wealth? Does it apply to yourself? It's applied to your relationships, right? Where is that exactly applying? Is that applying to your business, right? The 5 key areas. And this will help you get a little bit more grasp of the agonies, right, that we go through. And if you don't know what the 5 agonies are, you can go back to an older episode where you got Tim talking about that. But really look and see if there's 1 or 2 particular categories or areas of your life that you've really neglected over the last few years. You keep setting goals. In my experience, Tim, for the men that we work with, so business leaders, really, the areas tend to be in their business, right? They're not hitting the goals as high as they would. It's especially with take-home money. It's not as much revenue for the business, actually, their take-home. The second one is the area of their health, and the third is their relationships, right? And if anything, they'll tend to focus the most on the business category. What levers do I have to pull or push to make things change? But they neglect the relationship ones, which actually cause the most damage, right? Cause the most pain. And it's the ones they really say they want. So you don't want to be like Groundhog's Day where you have this. So now you've got this list right in front of you. You know how long you've had these goals or these dreams, how many years you've been saying you're going to do it. You also know what categories they are. Now you can start to recognize patterns that are in there, right? Once you've recognized patterns, my question to you is pretty simple. When are you going to stop lying to yourself and get off your ass and do something about it? Right? Or is this just a wish? Just something, yeah, it'd be cool. You know, it'd be cool for me to own a house in Tuscany. I've never been there. It's not that big of a priority. I know you have, because I've heard you talk about it. That's why it'd be cool for me to do it. But, you know, it's not a big deal to me. I don't even think about it, right? That's a cool thing. But your health, like getting ripped, getting a 6-pack or whatever a lot of guys want, if you really want it, you gotta be honest. Do you really want that? And are you doing the things that are gonna move the needle? If you say you want more relationships with your wife and with your kids and with yourself, then how come you haven't been through the activation method yet? Like, I don't want to hear a guy complain about their relationship or something like that. If they've had it for a little while, if it's this new complaint, cool, I get it. But if it's a complaint over and over again and you haven't gone through the activation method, then I don't want to hear it, right? Same thing with business. If you haven't hired a coach to really help you in the business category and really understand what needs to be moved, I don't want to hear it, right? And I think that's the difference, Tim. I know I'm getting a little bit on a soapbox, but you get a little tired of people. I get tired of people having the same goal over and over again, saying they want it, and it's some external force to them that doesn't allow them to achieve it. I know this is going to piss some people off listening to this. And I can tell you right now, guys, if what I'm saying is pissing you off, it's because it's true for you. Otherwise, you would just ignore it. And that's the truth. And I want the best for you out there. I want you to make 2020 the absolute best. It's just a day on a calendar, but it's a significant day on a calendar. It's a start. It's a fresh beginning. This is the time to step up. Be real with yourself. And if you want the change, you got to go get it. You got to go.
It's nothing worse than having it forced upon you, is there? You know, I speak to so many men that are like, right, I've got to change because my wife's going to leave. That's I understand why some men only change when that happens, but it's a much more stressful position to change from than saying, hey, I must change this because my standard is that, my standard's this instead of this, right? We often think as men that the way to provide for our wife and our children is to go out there and make money. And I get why that's, why men think that, right? It's in society, it's what we've been taught to believe. Yet, women today, and, maybe historically as well, but definitely women today require and demand, quite rightly, much more from men today than ever before. They expect the man to be out there, I wouldn't say to be out there bringing home the bacon. I don't think women expect that. I do think they expect the man in their life to be a man of purpose, so to have his own passion and purpose within his own professional life. I think that gives a woman a lot of trust in the relationship. But she can, she's able to go out there and make her own money these days. So, just being able to provide for your family financially isn't enough, right? So, the women require the men to provide for them emotionally, first and foremost, spiritually, emotionally. And, I can understand why for some men who may not necessarily be surrounded by other men who are living that way, could miss that trick, and then that is their standard, and then have the change forced upon them. And that why for that change to be a must is external, right? I want to win my wife back, so it's that thing outside of them. But a much stronger position to be in for you as a man, and also your marriage, or your health, or whatever area of life is for you to be the driver of that change, and for that change to come from a standard inside of you where you are saying, "Do you know what? No, no way. I am not tolerating this for 1 second longer." And you've got to reach that point yourself. You've got to dig deep and find those reasons for yourself. Human nature tends to mean that so often as guys we can bury our head in the sand and not contemplate the worst case scenario. And I ask guys when they apply for the activation method, look, what might happen if you don't change? Oh, well, Tim, you're not even going there. I'm changing. Yeah, but if you don't, what might happen? And they don't want to go there at first because it's too painful to consider the reality of what might happen. So it's easier to bury your head in the sand and just, be blasé and, she won't leave, or, I won't get that illness, or, the business will grow, or whatever. Optimism is great, but when it's denial, it's dangerous. So I would really invite you to entertain what might happen if things stay as they are. Seriously, go there, play with that, and journal about that. Where might you be in 12 months' time if you repeat the same pattern? Because the reality is things aren't going to stay the same. You're either going to go backwards or forwards. You definitely will not be in the same position. The only thing that will have gone by is time. So you will have lost, another 12 months. But really play there. Do whatever you get to do to drum up, to develop that desire and urgency. Urgency is key, right? Momentum loves speed. Success loves speed. So you've got to be in that position where it's a must. Any other things you can, suggest here, Doug, for the guys, for listeners, to drum up those feelings of urgency?
Well, drum up the feelings of urgency. I mean, I know for me, the worst thing possible is being in the same place at the end of 2020 is where I started. And I'm in a good place. So,
That's who you are, though, right? What if some of these guys, maybe they're a bit stuck, maybe they've become a bit numb to the situation, maybe,
Well, look, yeah. So I'm just saying, do you want to be the same situation 5 years from now? Next year is going to be 5 years, guys. It's going to multiply. It's going to go by like this. Those of you who have kids know this so well. A blink of an eye, times change, right? Next thing you know, your kid's out of your house and your wife and you are looking at each other and you're trying to figure out, do you still even know who the other person is across from you? Because your reason for being was you had kids, right? So it's going to happen quickly, Tim, for these guys. And what I want you to do is forward think, right? What if nothing changes? Is this as good as it gets? Is this what you've been put on this earth to do? Is this what you're here for? Like, let's get real here for a second. Like, what if things don't change and you're the same as you were last year, this year, and next year? Is that good enough? Do you have a second chance at life? Are you guaranteed a do-over? Because guess what's going to happen? You're going to get older. And you're not only going to get older, your body's going to start to fail you. Guess what? I don't care who you are, how Teflon you think you are. It happens to every human that's ever walked this earth thus far, right? Your body's going to get older. It's going to break down. You're not going to have as much energy. You're not going to be able to do the things that you wanted to do. And you're going to sit back with a ton of regrets. And you're going to be the grumpy old guy that nobody friggin' wants to be around. That sucks. So, Tim, it reminds me of a woman that you and I know, Darcy. And I was talking to her about this, and we were looking at two men. We were looking at one guy who was in his late 70s. And could barely, had bad knees, couldn't walk very well, kind of wobbly, acted like guy in his 80s or 90s really. really brilliant mind, extremely good business guy, was one of my mentors for a while. We were talking about him, and Darcy turned to me and said, my dad's that same age. What? Because her dad had a beer with him, and he was as vibrant as, really probably a 35-year-old having a beer, and he takes care of himself. He runs, he eats decent, he takes care of his soul, his mental space. He's a physician, right? He's a doctor. And totally different, right? You can say genetics and all of these other things, but there are choices here, Tim. And here's a man who's in his 70s living life as if it was his 30s or 40s, married, kids, the whole thing. And here's another man in his 70s, like you said in a previous podcast, would pay anything to have his health back. But he thought, if I just work harder this year, one more year of grinding it out. And he grinded it out for 40 friggin' years, right? Doesn't know, it has a horrible relationship with his wife, right? Doesn't have a lot of friends. I'm one of his best friends, and I'm, half his age. And, he was a client of mine, right? So I know him well, but these are choices, guys. This is the same thing with his relationships. He has no relationship. This one guy, so Darcy's dad and her are super close. This other guy has no relationship with his kids. None with his daughter. An okay relationship with his son just because they work in the same business, but not really a good one, right? Because he confides in me. But these are choices. They drifted apart. Gentlemen, this is why I'm so adamant about this. I'm not going to be, super nice and give you a big hug around this. You got to do the work, and you got to be honest with yourself. What are you going to get out of this year? Are you going to be the dad that gets a Christmas card 5-10 years from now that has nothing but a signature on it, right? No message, no kids following up the gifts, a phone call because you talk to them all the time. It's the obligatory card they picked up as they're walking out of the store, and they just sign their names on somebody else's words because you're your dad. You're a sperm donor at that point. You're not a father. Or are you going to be an amazing father, an amazing husband, an example to your kids on how you treat your spouse? Are you going to show them how to take care of your health, right? You don't have to have a six-pack. You don't have to be able to bench press 300 pounds or any of that BS. You just have to be healthy, right? Be an example of what wellness is for your kids. Be an example of balance for your children, for the people around you. The choice is yours, guys. The choice is yours. Don't complain about, I don't want to get a personal trainer because it costs too much money. That's BS. The money you can't take with you, right? I don't want to join the activation method. It takes too much time, right? It's 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Step up, right? You can do this, and you can do this now. It's just you got to take control, whatever it is for you. I don't care what that is, but this is your time to go after it. You don't have a second chance. No one here has had one that I'm aware of. Time is ticking, and things are going down. So if you repeat the same patterns you did in 2019 and 2020, most likely you'll repeat them in 2021 and 2022 and 2023. Where is that going to leave you? When you're in your 70s, are you going to be the guy that I was talking to as a client of mine who has no relationship with his kids, made a lot of money, no friends, no health? Or are you going to be like Darcy, who works with Tim and I, her dad, who has all of those in abundance? And those are choices. That's a decision, Tim, in my opinion, and that's why I'm so adamant about it. It's not excuses. And I'm not trying to get down on everybody. If you want to set a small goal or something like that, good, go for it. If it happens, it happens. That's a wish. Cool, whatever. Right? But your real goals, your 5 key areas, you guys got to dominate those. This is your life. This is your chance. Put up or shut up. Really, like if you're not going to work on it, you're not going to invest in time, money, and energy, those 3 things into those areas of your life, I don't want to hear you complaining anymore. You have no right to complain in my mind. A man like Tim who's going after it in his relationship, as you said in another podcast, you can complain all day as far as I'm concerned, Tim, because you're doing something to move the needle.
I remember that.
I don't want you to complain, but you get what I'm saying. Like to me, you have street credit. Right? Cool. You can do it because you're putting in the work. But I'm just tired of hearing, I'm tired of getting emails, phone calls from guys complaining about the same thing this year that they're complaining to me about 2 years ago. But yet they haven't done anything to make a difference. They just want to complain, make excuses. It's everybody else's fault. It's not me. It's the economy. It's my wife. It's my in-laws. It's my job, the health, I don't have time, I've got kid, whatever. It's all BS. You can do it, guys. It's all there for you. Men have walked the same path that you could step on and have success. Or you can walk a different path. A path of the guy that sits on the couch and complains and wonders where his life went when he dreamt about it so cleanly in his 20s. But now he's in his 30s, 40s, and 50s, and it's just passing him by. Don't let it pass you by. It's not too late. Get on now. This is your spot. Right here, right now. Make a declaration to me, to Tim, to yourself that you're going to make a change. And this is the time to do it.
I don't have anything to add. I'm just sitting on the other side, and it's painful, isn't it, to just watch life pass you by. You know, to be in that position of 30s, 40s, 50s, just knowing that it's like the rocking chair test, right? Yeah, it's like ultimate pain to me.
Yeah.
Ultimate pain, knowing that I just wasted the time I had available and, you know, the potential I had available. And so often I hear guys sugarcoat it. Oh, you know, the kids are fine. I ask them, you know, well, how's the disconnect between you and your wife affecting the kids? Oh, it's not. It's not. They don't pick up on anything. I disagree with that. Like, you know, I don't have kids yet, so, you know, I'm not going to stand here and say, hey, they will pick up on it, because I can't say indefinitely. But what I do know from behavior and all the rest of it, that, you know, they'll see it. And, you know, what kind of role model do you want to be to your kids? It's all right, you know, sat there when you're in your 60s, 70s, talking to your grandchildren about what they should do and how they should live, or even to your kids. You know, the strongest way to be a role model is to walk the path, right? And your actions will pave the way. It's much more difficult to give your son advice or your daughter advice if you have never lived it yourself. Like, where's that advice coming from? Theory? You know, you think you know what it's like to, you know, be a certain way. You've got to know it. You know, maybe one of those ways that you do drum up these feelings of urgency so you can make sure that 2020 is different for you is to consider, you know, maybe ask your kids, what's it like to be in a relationship with me? How can I be a better father? You know, they may say, you can't be a better father. At which point, you know, find, there's always ways to find leverage, right? It just comes down to you being creative enough to ask the right questions of yourself or those people around you. Because to watch time pass you by, oh, wow. Painful.
Guys, this is your chance, your moment of insight. Time to take action. Make sure that 2020 is not like 2019 and 2018. You know, follow Tim's advice. I'm passionate about this. I'm not just going to hold your hand through this. I want you to have the best. Gentlemen, until next time, we'll see you on another episode of The Powerful Man Show.